So picture this. You're in the British Museum and you walk past this battered old slab of granite. It's carved up, looks like a bunch of other royal monuments, right? But what's etched into its surface is so much more. It's a philosophical document so profound, some have called it ancient Egypt's theory of everything, a unified theory of consciousness, creation, and yeah, the very structure of reality. It's a philosophy that might just change how you see, well, everything. Let's dive in and decode it. At the absolute core of this ancient teaching is this one powerful line. Everything came forth from his heart and tongue. Now it sounds simple, almost poetic, doesn't it? But what if it's not a metaphor? What if the Egyptians were giving us a literal formula for how existence itself comes into being? And that's the big question we're tackling. Could this ancient stone, which is actually a copy of a much older text, lay out a cosmology that feels surprisingly modern? It proposes a model of reality that begins not with some big explosion, but with a simple flicker of consciousness. Okay, so to really get this, we've got to talk about the stone itself. This is the Shabaka stone. It was carved way back in the 25th dynasty, but it says right on it that it's preserving a far more ancient philosophy, one that came from the city of Memphis. And it describes creation in a series of really elegant, logical steps. Before anything existed, the text tells us, there was only Nun. Now, Nun is described as the water, the father of the gods, but it's not a creator god in the way we usually think of one. You should think of it more like an infinite, unstructured potential, a limitless sea of pure possibility. It's the raw material from which everything else is going to be formed. And then something happens. Emerging from within that infinite potential of Nun comes the very first act of self-awareness, and this is Ptah. Ptah isn't some craftsman who builds the world with his hands. He is the first knower, the first point of consciousness, the first I am that wakes up from the sea of what is. And this distinction is absolutely crucial. On one side, you've got none, this passive, infinite what is. And on the other, you've got Ta, the active, self-aware consciousness that can do something with all that potential. The entire universe, according to this text, begins right at that intersection. So we have the raw material and we have the conscious mind. But how does Ptah actually create anything? Well, this is where the Shabaka stone reveals an astonishingly precise mechanism. It's basically a process for turning consciousness into physical reality. And there it is again, that core formula. Every word of the god came into being through what the heart devised and the tongue commanded. I'm telling you, this isn't just poetry, it's a metaphysical instruction manual. So let's break down what heart and tongue actually mean here. You see, in the Egyptian system, the heart isn't about emotion. It's the seat of consciousness, of intellect. It's where the idea, the blueprint for something, is first imagined. Then the tongue articulates that idea. It gives it structure and form through speech. It issues the command. And the word that results, that's the actualizing force that makes the blueprint manifest into reality, from thought to command to thing. Now, if this is starting to sound a little familiar to you, it absolutely should. This idea that the universe is literally spoken into existence by a divine consciousness is one of the most powerful and persistent ideas in all of human history. The Egyptians might have said it with incredible clarity, but they were definitely not alone. I mean, just look around. You see it in the concept of the creative logos, or the word, in the Gospel of John. You see it in the idea of vak, or divine speech, being the created vibration in Hinduism, and in the use of mantra, sacred utterance, to shape reality in Zoroastrianism. All of these incredible traditions are echoing the same fundamental principle we find right here on the Shabaka stone. Okay, so creation happens when consciousness gives a command. Got it. But there are two more crucial elements needed for this whole process to work. Think of it this way. You need an engine to power it, and you need a set of rules to guide it. The engine is a force the Egyptians called Heka. Now, you can think of Heka as magic, but it's really more like the fundamental energy that makes manifestation possible in the first place. It's the divine power that makes sure Ptah's word doesn't just stay an idea, but actually becomes real. It's the activation force. But here's the thing, raw power, Heka, isn't enough. It can lead to chaos. It has to be guided by Ma'at. Ma'at is the fundamental principle of cosmic order, of truth, harmony, balance, and justice. It's the underlying law that any creation must align with if it's going to be stable and functional. If you create something that goes against Ma'at, it will eventually just collapse.
So you see how these two work together, right? Heka is the engine that drives creation forward. It's the gas pedal. But Ma'at provides the guardrails on the road, making sure that creation unfolds in a harmonious, orderly way. One is the power to act. The other is the wisdom to act correctly. Now, once you get this, it completely reframes how we look at the entire Egyptian pantheon. We tend to think of gods like Horus or Thoth as these distinct individuals with their own stories, but the Shabaka stone suggests something far deeper, far more profound is going on. According to this text, the different gods are not separate beings at all. They are emanations of Ptah's one consciousness, different cosmic functions or principles that have been given a form. So worshiping a god wasn't about appeasing some person in the sky. It was about aligning yourself with a specific aspect of the universal mind. Okay, but this isn't just some big, abstract story about the cosmos. The whole point of this philosophy is that it's designed to be a practical guide for human life. It implies that you, as a conscious being, have a very, very specific role to play in all of this. The text is basically saying that we humans can and we should model ourselves on Ptah. And how do we do that? First, you align your heart. That means your conscious thoughts and intentions. Then you align your tongue. You speak truthfully and carefully. And finally, you align your actions to live in harmony with Ma'at, with that cosmic order. And the implication here is just staggering. It means we aren't just observers watching the universe happen. We are active participants in its upkeep. Through our conscious thoughts, our truthful words, and our orderly actions, we are meant to help maintain the cosmic harmony that Ptah first set in motion. We're on the cosmic maintenance crew. So, let's bring all these pieces together. The Shabaka stone doesn't just tell a nice story. It gives us a complete formula, an equation for how reality comes into being, from the grand cosmic scale right down to the details of our own lives. And here it is, the creation equation. You start with infinite potential, that's Moon. You add self-aware consciousness, Ptah, to give it intention. You use an activating word, born from the heart and the tongue, to give that intention a form. And you bind the whole process together with moral order, Ma'at, to make sure it's all stable and harmonious. And that leaves us with one final and really powerful question. If this ancient formula is true, if our thoughts devise and our words truly command the reality we experience, then the most important question we could ever ask ourselves is this: what reality are you building right now with your own heart and your own tongue?